Reason number 8, why John Weiss is divine. Carrie Simison Bitts.
It's not that bad. For 12 years, John Weiss has been my boss at The Independent. During those 12 years, he's also become my friend and mentor. The divine quality I'd like to talk about is his constant spawning of ideas. I'm not saying they're all good ideas, but I've never met another person who generates an idea with almost every exhale. Whether or not anyone else ever knows, John's ideas are ingrained in creating The Independent in 1993, the TOPS measure, the 4 completed Fort Carson Town Hall community meetings with the 5th one on the way in April, the evangelical and environmental event with the Reverend Richard Cizik on creation care, and working to reform Tabor, just to name a few. But what I'd like to focus on in my final seconds is John's idea to bring the Give 2009 initiative to life in Colorado Springs. While the dollar amount raised in the first year is impressive at $198,000 plus, the true sense of community experienced by everyone involved, from the Indy staff to the 29 nonprofits to the foundations, our reward partners, the champions, and finally the donors, proved that it really takes a village. Here, John's idea to start an end-of-year giving campaign, enlist the participants to truly get themselves and everyone they know involved, solidified him on the path to divinity. As Siddhartha, the founder of Buddhism, so eloquently said, an idea that is developed and put into action is more important than an idea that exists only as an idea. When we are in John's presence and enveloped by his many, many ideas, we're automatically put on the path to help make our community, Colorado Springs, a better place.
And with reason number 7, why John Weiss is divine, John Crandall.
An honor to be sharing the stage with this man. I start with a question for you, and that is, what do John Weiss and Michael Moore have in common? Now John is infinitely more handsome, as we can see, incredibly more athletic, but don't underestimate either of them. My wife Kathy and I had the good fortune to wander into the Unitarian Church 18 years ago at one of the first Citizens Project meetings. And it was a doubly divine evening. It started out first by meeting Amy the original, a treat to meet Amy and her husband Doug, who started the organization along with some other people in this community. And then after that initial part, we broke up into small groups, and the group that I was in happened to have John Weiss. And we went around, introduced ourselves, said who we are, what our plans were. And John said, I'm going to start a liberal weekly newspaper. The eye rolls were deafening. We were all thinking, yeah, great idea, good. Next person. Anyway, here we are 18 years later. You all know where Citizens Project has come. You all know what John has done for this community. It isn't just this liberal weekly newspaper. It's an involvement in so many facets of this town. It's a treat for me to be up here. John is divine in so many ways, and to put him in the company of the same term as Amy is pretty special. Thank you.
So we can thank President Obama for taking away one of our speakers tonight. But in her stead, we have a fabulous person. Reason number 6, why John Weiss is divine, comes from Annie Oatman Gardner, and it will be delivered by the wonderful C.J. Moore.
I just ask that you close your eyes and pretend that I'm tall and very skinny. As Barb says Annie had to make a real choice tonight between seeing President Obama or sharing this evening with John, and John was very understanding about it. Now, this is from Annie. I have known John since 1977, when I first learned of his numerous idiosyncrasies of life, garnered for sneaking into his apartment he so generously shared with the man who became my husband. Needless to say, I can clearly remember him always on the phone, never far from a newspaper, usually with a bathroom door open. I never thought that John would move back to the Springs because he's such an East Coast boy. The only other time besides Boston that I saw him was on a Vermont farm. His respect and deep love of the countercultures of the world will never ever be lost, no matter how old he gets. And it's probably the thing that fuels his wanderlust. As many know, it is no longer uncommon to find that he's headed out for a month or two of travels, usually without a cell phone, without anything to communicate with, to return full of innovation and new ways of looking at things. It is that for which I am most grateful to John, to call John my friend. He just makes life so much more interesting and unexpected and challenging. And it is always a matter of what if instead of there is nothing that can be done. I have often said that John Weiss has a heart of gold, and he would give you the shirt off his back. Sometimes if you really would rather he did not. And that is a really rare thing these days. John, and for me too, John, this man has been the light of my liberal eyes and has kept me going for through many a dark time. And whenever he calls me, I usually know he wants money, but that's okay. I try to find ways to get it for him. We love you, John.
Thanks, CJ. And with reason number 5, why John Weiss is divine, comes from Jennifer Ferda.
Thank you. Please. 1 wine, you'll do fine. 2 wines, you'll just think you did fine. So, I was asked here today to speak to John's divinity. I am sure John would like me to use words like divine, heavenly, celestial, godly in these remarks. Well, I'm not going to, because I finally get the chance to get back at him for all of his wisecracks at me. When John calls me to either get a business or Chamber of Commerce point of view or just to run something by me, he always starts with, "Jen, I need to borrow your brain." Then there's a long pause, and it's followed up with this: "I know there's not much left, so I'll be quick." Even though this is a wisecrack at me, I do believe that this shows John's greatness and divinity in the fact that there's always a seat at John's table. No matter what project he is working on, collaboration is key to him, and you will always be welcome at his table. He is also the master of bringing all sides together, even when you think there is not a fit. Whether that is a sustainability and green initiatives with religious leaders, or the military community and business leaders, or Democrats and Republicans. John is always working to better our community and the world. And I believe these are just a few examples of what makes him just divine.